Annie's here.
Annie's there. Jan, do we have Jan yet? I think because we have quorum and given our time, we'll begin our meeting. And I'm sure Jan will join us momentarily. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you again. We acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional land of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which is represented by the communities of Saugeen First Nation and Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We also think of the Métis Nation of Ontario, whose history and people are well represented in Bruce and Grey County. We have received regrets tonight from Trustee Miller. And we'll begin with our moment of reflection. I hope everyone had an enjoyable Thanksgiving. In keeping with the spirit, I would like to give thanks on behalf of our board to all our Blue Water students, staff, families, and partners, and communities, and our communities for all their hard work and collaboration in making this school year a success so far. There are a few staff groups in particular who are the focus of some special recognition this month. October is National Principals Month, National Custodial Workers Recognition Day, and World Teachers Day also took place earlier in the month. This Wednesday is School Bus Driver Appreciation Day, and on Thursday we look forward to Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Education Appreciation Day. And I would be remiss if I did not mention there is also significance for trustees, student trustees, and student senators this week as we honor Local Government Week. We think about our roles and the duties entrusted to us in supporting the success and well-being of our students in Blue Water. It is a chance for us to raise civic awareness of what it means to be a locally elected school board trustee. For this month's moment of reflection, please join me in sharing and thinking about your gratitude toward one another as trustees and those we serve in our Blue Water schools and work sites. We have a couple of our student trustees and senators who are unable to join us at our first meeting. So I would like to invite Superintendent of Education Cheryl Elliott to lead the declaration of student senators, Ren Merritt and Juliana Rutledge. I hope they're with us tonight.
They are. Good
Excellent.
Evening, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome, as we've heard, two of our student senate are the final two to do their declaration. That's Juliana Rutledge and Ren Merritt. And they each have a copy of their declaration that they will read in unison. And can I ask the senators to put on their cameras and read their declaration in unison?
Just go?
Yes.
Okay.
I've not seen Juliana, but go ahead.
Okay. I, Juliana Rutledge, do solemnly declare that in response to my appointment as a student representative for Blue Water District School Board, I will truly, faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability, execute the office of student senator and will endeavor to represent the interests of students in the Blue Water District School Board in a forthright and objective fashion, and will participate to the best of my ability in discussion and debate on all relevant matters. And I make this solemn declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and knowing that this is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Thank you and welcome, and I can appreciate that's very tricky to try and be in unison with all of our internets doing their variety of things. Luckily, some of us had the opportunity to meet Ren when we were at the opening of the Meaford School, but I hope we all get to meet in person one day. That takes us, hang on. To the approval of the agenda. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder that the agenda for the regular meeting of the board of October 19th, 2021 be approved as printed. I see Trustee Morgan, seconded by Trustee McComb. Is there any additions that people are requesting to be made? Trustee Johnstone, did you have something? No. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in any of the agenda items? Trustee McComb, I still see your hand up in one place and not in the other.
No, it's not.
All right. Thank you. We're having hand issues tonight. So that takes us to our approval of some minutes. So I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the regular meeting of the board of September 21st, 2021 be approved as printed. Trustee McComb and a seconder. Trustee Atkinson. Any errors or omissions? I see none. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. And we also have the minutes. So I'll be looking for a mover and seconder that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole Board of October 5th, 2021 be approved as printed. I see Trustee Dawson and seconder Trustee Morgan. Any errors or omissions? I see none. All in favor? Thank you. And is there any business arising from those minutes? I see none. I would like to invite Superintendents of Education Elliott and Penner Lipset to speak to this following report, which I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder for, that Blue Water District School Board received the Taking the Learning Outdoors report for education report for information. I see Trustee Johnstone and a seconder, Trustee Lutz, and welcome.
Good evening and thank you very much. I will be starting us off tonight and Superintendent Elliott's going to join in. Step one is sharing my screen. So if you just give me a moment, I will try to do that first.
Just while Superintendent Penner Lipset is doing that, I just to provide a little bit of a brief introduction. We've been very fortunate this year to be able to be out in schools as superintendents. That's one of the most enjoyable parts of the job. And one thing I noticed when I was going through my schools was you'd go to the classrooms and they'd be empty. And that's because the kids were learning outside. And we just felt that we wanted to show you some of the ways that teachers have been creative to bring their kids outside. And so I see that the PowerPoint is presented there. So I'll let Superintendent Penner Lipset take over.
Thanks so much. That was perfect timing. So taking the learning outdoors in Blue Water. We have some photos that we are happy to share with you this evening. The first photo on the screen, or photos, are from Peninsula Shores District School, and the students here during Truth and Reconciliation Week painted some orange feathers to represent the 7 feathers teachings on the sidewalk out front of the school. So you may have also noticed that this was featured on our Blue Water social media. The next slide, you'll see some photos from McPhail Memorial Elementary School. And on the sort of left-hand side of your screen, this is a music class outdoors with Mr. Glasspool, one of the music teachers at the school. And these are some of the intermediate students enjoying being able to play again instruments, but in a safe way outside. And on the right-hand side of the screen, this is photo taken from a kindergarten class who was out, the class was outside playing in nature, but also exploring and using their mud kitchens. So you'll see a little bit more about mud kitchens as we go through the slides this evening. Another photo here from MacPhail Memorial. This is a grade 1 French immersion class that was out for a hike in Flesherton Hills, having a great time with their teacher, Ms. Morandi. Egremont community was also very excited to see instruments and music class back in full swing this fall, and they have taken music outdoors as well. And the students have been able to play a variety of instruments in a safe way outside. So they're really enjoying that. I was at the school just last week, and the principal was sharing that this was one of the highlights that the students were really excited about to have back this year. At Alexandra Community School, they held a challenge. This was actually from last spring during our period of remote learning when we were working and learning from home. And the staff there really wanted to think about how could they encourage students to get outside and to be in nature when we were spending a lot of time in front of screens on remote learning. And so they came up with this challenge, the Alexandra Eagles Get Into Nature Photography Challenge. And they asked students and their families to participate and get outside and take photos and document some of the learning and the adventures they were having outside. To kick off this event, the staff actually created a video for the students of the staff doing things outside and talking about why nature is important to them, why they love being outdoors, you know, what outdoors meant to them. And they presented the video to the students and then challenged the students to participate. And they had a really great uptake. This was spearheaded by teacher Amber Stevens, but all the staff were really behind this event, including Principal Dan Russell.
I see
Over to you.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag in the slides showing up, so I will start presenting. So this, these are students at Huron Heights Public School in Kincardine, and they have been each provided with a 5-gallon pail and a clipboard to take the learning outdoors and make it easy for everyone. I thought that was a really creative idea. They decorated their pails and they have them sitting on the hook rack ready to go whenever the weather is suitable. They can sneak outside, and a whiteboard is stored just inside the door to ensure that the classroom teacher also has everything that he or she needs. And this is a class of grade 4 students taught by Colleen Ridley, and they're learning suitably and fittingly about mental health. And we all know the positive impact of learning outdoors on our mental health. And I'm also pleased to say that Colleen has acquired a 0.5 permanent teaching position with Huron Heights, and they're very pleased to have her as a member of their team. She's a huge proponent of mental health, and her grade partner, she works with her grade partner to share the learning in the primary junior team. And then the next picture as well is also at Huron Heights. You'll see the students working away on their pails with their clipboards on the left. And then on the right, this is a grade 4 student at Huron Heights as well. They learned about the life cycle of the butterfly, and this image depicts a young student setting her butterfly free. The next picture, when it shows, will be, this is the students in a JKSK class at Normanby Community School, and this is their outdoor classroom. And students are learning outdoors with their teacher, Amanda Kerr, and having a classroom all set up in a wooded area allows the classes to move outdoors really quickly when the weather permits. And, you know, I also saw in my travels classes that didn't care if the weather permitted. They dressed for it and they learned outside anyway, so.
The next photo, I'm not sure if it's on your screen, but it should be coming. The next photo is from Saugeen District Senior School, and the desks that you're seeing there were built by Mr. Halpin's construction class, and they built these desks for their outdoor classroom and learning pods. The desks have been used by many students in classes in the school, but in particular, the grade 7-8 developmental learning class with Mr. Lawrence has used the outdoor learning space well during COVID-19, and they even started a little entrepreneurial business where they were making bracelets and then selling them, and they did their work here outside at the desks.
We promised you more pictures of mud kitchens. On the left, you'll see the mud kitchen at Kincardine Township, Tiverton Public School. I don't know about you, but times have changed, because when I went to school, I always had my school clothes and my play clothes. And I'm very pleased to see that the kids get to combine both. They are able to make believe in their mud kitchen. This is a student in JKSK enjoying their kitchen. And the one thing about KTTPS is they have several outdoor classrooms. They have one connected directly to kindergarten that is fenced off with their kindergarten area, and they have one right in a wooded area, and they also have the ability to just go out onto the tarmac, somewhat like at Huron Heights. On the right-hand side, you'll see a stone number line in one of their outdoor classrooms, and you can see that the student is placing the number of apples on each stone indicated by the number written on the stone as part of a mathematics activity.
So there's a number of photos to share here on the Amabel Sauble Community School page, and they sent us many more actually, but we picked a few to share with you this evening. Their kindergarten class there really likes to get outside and do creative activities, and they mentioned things like they also have a mud kitchen. Their students have worked on planting milkweed, and they've been observing the life cycle of caterpillars and butterflies, exploring states of water, and doing a lot of learning outside in a forest school model, which is some of the students in that center picture. And then also on the right, you'll see classes gathered to do lessons and reading outside. They've been working on problem solving skills and shelter building. That's part of that center picture again. And the grade 3 was working on planting wheat in raised beds also. So they shared a lot of outdoor learning photos with us. I'll turn to the next one. There we go. So a few photos here from Georgian Bay. Georgian Bay community, they set up a challenge with one of their classes where they were doing a design and build challenge. And these are a few of the pictures from that work. The first challenge was to build the tallest standing structure that they could using natural materials. And the second challenge they engaged in was designing and building a waterproof structure. And some of these photos are from the waterproof. So you can see they are pouring some water and it's coming through the sieve. They're testing their structures out to see how waterproof they really were. And the last photo we wanted to share is not so much depicting learning outside, but we just thought it really showed the wonders of nature. and this photo, you may or may not have seen, it was also shared on our social media, and Superintendent Lefebvre can jump in, but I believe this was the first week the school was going to open, and a staff member captured this photo from the parking lot. And although it doesn't have students, we just thought it really depicted nature, and we thought it was a nice way to end. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, do you have any questions or comments? I see Trustee McComb and then Trustee Morgan.
Yes, I'm very curious about the mud kitchens. What is a mud kitchen exactly?
Well, a mud kitchen is really, it's a structure. Picture, you know, I'm trying to, the Playmobil or the plastic kitchens that we would have had as kids with that had the sink or had the cupboard or had the oven that opened and you put all your plastic toys in and you played kitchen or played house or, you know, that kind of thing. It's that concept, except built with natural materials outside, so no plastic. Using things like wood and mud as your play objects, and then maybe a metal bin, for example. So eliminating some of the plastics and making a natural structure for the kids to play with.
Thank you.
Good question.
Trustee Morgan.
Ladies, thank you so much for that report. It almost brought tears to my eyes. It's absolutely enchanting. It's wonderful to see the kids outside being children again after being locked down for so long and being experimental and doing wonderful things, even putting 3 apples on a stone that has 3. It's just fabulous. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I have a couple. As I was watching, I was thinking my equity lens was up and wondering, do we provide enough budget in our school budgets for staff to be able to do these projects, or is this something that's a fundraising of local communities?
I can respond. I know from, I asked the very question where Huron Heights, for instance, where did they get the buckets and where did they get the clipboards and those kinds of things. And some of those things were purchased with their own school budget, but the buckets, for instance, were donated by the local Rona. So the school budget, as you know, is based on enrollment, and the school would spend those funds on what they feel suits. So I think the staff is pretty creative. They get what they can for with donations, and what they can't get, like the clipboards, for example, they could purchase those out of budget.
And a follow-up, there's some terrific ideas that you showed us. Do we share those somehow and across our board so that other schools have an idea of what the idea is or how to go about funding it or asking for donations?
So I can jump in, and then Cheryl, you can jump in also if needed. We have a couple ways of sharing. For example, principals share ideas, obviously, and we have ways of doing that. Sometimes at our system administrator meetings monthly, we have at times included, times to ask questions, times for sharing, times for brainstorming, that kind of thing. We also, our curriculum lead teachers, our coaches, our system staff that are out at schools supporting some of these projects, they have a chance to share when they visit different schools. So because they're there to support curriculum and teaching and learning, so they can share, I was at this school and I saw this really neat activity or lesson, and then they add that to their repertoire of things they might share at another school. We also have had in the past a variety of opportunities for schools and teachers to apply for some funding for innovative and creative projects at the school. And I think we've brought you some reports on those projects in the past. And we have an opportunity for teachers this year to apply again to an innovation fund. And as part of that, there is a requirement to share at the end some of the innovation projects and share some of the learning. And so the teachers that are involved in the schools get to share the learning at the end of those projects. So innovation is shared, and how the funds were spent, and all the creative ideas.
And that's something just for trustees to be aware of, that came from an idea from a trustee, and we've carried it on, which is exciting to see that happen. I see Trustee Dawson, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Thomas. It's really exciting to see these things happening outdoors beyond physical education classes, or those kinds of things outdoors that have been tradition. As you can tell by my picture there, I really like to be outdoors as well. And it's great to see kids outdoors getting into the fresh air and getting dirty while they learn. So thank you for that report.
I have one more question if I didn't see anybody right now. The redhead in me, and from a health and safety perspective, is just curious about how we handle sunscreen when we're going outside.
I can jump in, Cheryl, there too, maybe. So as part of our communications, teachers communicating with home that things that might be needed, you know, just as we do for shoes or rubber boots, if, you know, boots or outerwear or a coat. Sunscreen is often on a list, or communicated that if parents could apply sunscreen before coming to school in the morning, if they want to send sunscreen, it could be reapplied, you know, partway through the day, for example. So it's one of those things. I think over time it has become part of our list of things that could be part of the package for school with our boots and our hats and our mitts and our coats and our sunscreen.
Thank you.
I did notice as well that many of the fixture areas, like the mud kitchens, are located in shady areas, little wooded areas. So that is also helpful to support all students to be out of the sun, but outside.
Excellent.
Yeah, most
Anybody else have
definitely.
any questions or comments? I like Trustee Morgan and Trustee Dawson. It makes me happy to hear these reports. It feels very uplifting, and it feels like it's combines all the best of what we offer in education. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It was moved by Trustee Johnstone and seconded by Trustee Lutz that the Blue Water District School Board receive the Taking Learning Outdoors report for information. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. So that takes us down to our delegation response. As you recall, we had a delegation present to us at our last meeting. So as per our board bylaws, section 6.5, a response for the delegation presented on October the 5th, 2021 regarding the Amabel-Sauble Community School Operating Agreement was discussed at the Executive Committee meeting today. Our recommendation for the next steps is to provide a response letter to the delegation indicating that we are referring the item to staff for follow-up. In addition, the trustees can look forward to a future report to come to a business committee of the whole meeting from our staff after they've had an opportunity to do some further follow-up. So I'm looking for trustee agreement for this recommendation, or if anyone get a question, you can ask me, but otherwise, first I'll ask for a question. If anyone had a comment. Trustee Johnston, are you waiting to vote, or are you?
Yeah, like it was a question of clarification. Is that a motion you're putting on the floor? And if it is, then I want to move the motion to put it on the floor so we can have that conversation.
We are just looking for agreement for the recommendation.
Okay, so we're not doing any kind of, I just want to know, I wish it for clarification for everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
So if everyone's looking for agreement, then if you could do a show of hands, that we'll send a letter and we'll get some follow-up.
Okay, I'll put my hand up here.
Ah! All right, that's carried. Thank you, everyone. So we are to Committee of the Whole Board reports. So I would like to invite Vice Chair Johnstone to speak to this report. Maybe I'll just ask you to speak to it now, Jen, and then we'll move forward. If you need me to put the motions on the floor, I can, but otherwise I'll let you go. You're on mute, Jen.
I wasn't actually going to speak to the report and more so just to put the motions on the floor. So is that okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm the mover of them so that the Blue Water District School Board approve the Bruce Peninsula District School students participate in the Specialist High Skills Major Fall Hike grade 10 outers field trip from October 26, 2021 to October 28, 2021. Contingent that it aligns with COVID-19 protocols at the time of departure, and I am looking for somebody to second that. And I see Trustee Thompson. And is there any debate, conversation concerning the motion on the floor? Even though we have had conversations previously about it, but there still can be other things that come up. Okay, I see none, so all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And the next motion I will put on the floor and move it, and then I'm just looking for someone to second it. That the Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 7520-D, Human Rights as revised for system use. Can I have somebody to second it? And I see Trustee McComb. Thank you very much. Is there any debate, conversation, or comment concerning the motion before you? And I see none, so all in favor? And that is carried. And then the final motion is that Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 7310-D, employee hiring practices, formally hiring practices bracket teachers, as revised for system use. Can I have someone to second this? Thank you, Trustee Atkinson. Is there any debate, commentary concerning the motion? And I see none, so all in favor? And that is carried. And thank you very much, Chair Thompson.
Thank you very much. The Business Committee of the Whole, October 5th, I would like to invite Trustee Dawson to speak to this report, but I'll put the motion on the floor. I'd like a mover and a seconder that the Blue Water District School Board receive the report of the Business Committee of the Whole meeting, whole board meeting held on October 5th, 2021 for information. Could I have a mover, please? I see Trustee McComb and Trustee Morgan. Thank you. And welcome, Trustee Dawson.
Thank you very much, Chair Thompson. I'm pleased to give this Business Committee of the Whole report for Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. During the meeting, we received several items for information. One of them was a preliminary enrollment report, which indicated there was an increase of enrollment from the projections that we had back in the spring. We also received a report on transportation, an update rather on transportation. The shortage of bus drivers was the main topic of discussion during that report, and the transportation providers are doing their best to hire new drivers so that we won't have a lot of delays in our school bus transportation. We also received a report on the disposition of the Georgian Bay Community School property and an update on the Beavercrest Community School project. Thank you very much. That is my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? I see none. It was moved by Trustee McComb, seconded by Trustee Morgan, that the Blue Water District School Board receive the report of the Business Committee of the Whole board meeting held on October 5th, 2021 for information. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. I'd like to invite Vice Chair Johnstone to provide the report from the Committee of the Whole board meeting held earlier today. You're on mute, Jen.
That's because I actually don't print paper. I'm just letting you know. So I go between screens. So I'm looking at, you know, my screen behind because I've put up the information, the page. So then I forget I'm on mute. So I apologize. So first of all, there's actually 2 items. So the first item is I'm going to be looking for somebody to move this or second it, that the agenda of the October 19, 2021 Committee of the Whole Board in Camera meeting be deemed to meet the legislative requirements for discussion in camera, and I'm looking for somebody to second that. And I see Trustee Morgan, thank you very much. And all in favor? And that is carried, thank you. And then just the last item is that the annual performance review of the Director of Education has been completed as per board policy. And that completes my report from the private meeting in camera.
Thank you very much. That brings us down to B3, notice of motion. Are there any notice of motion this evening? I see none. There are no committee establishments or appointments this evening from B4. So we're at reports for information. So I'd like to invite student trustee Trinity Shaw to present the student Senate report for this evening. Welcome.
Hello and good evening. Before I begin, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. So can everyone just...
Yes, we can.
Thank you. All right. Our Senate within the last month has brought many topics onto the table for discussion within our group. One such topic was the raising of flags on the same flagpole as our national flag of Canada during their respective months or occasions, such as the Pride flag during the month of June, and whether they should be flown together with Canada's national flag if a school is without a second pole. Others were centered around the shift we found many students to be working through with the return to face-to-face learning, moving from bedrooms to classrooms. Student stress was also among the discussion, as some students may have made it clear that it's been quite difficult to keep up with the increase of workload moving into the older grades. We shared our thoughts and deliberated on such topics, thinking of ways we could begin to achieve our goals and find solutions to problems being raised throughout our meetings. We have also been working on our plans as a collective Senate with the theme of equity in mind. 3 of the main areas we have decided to work on are racial and 2S LGBTQIA+ education for our staff, students, and community, as well as focusing on gender-based violence and what we can do to help those who have been and could be affected by it. We discussed that we found the Truth and Reconciliation Day was well received within our schools throughout the board. Students were more than ready to help, making billboards, creating art, and even decorating cars to honor the students who perished at residential schools around the country, as well as their families and communities. The student has also had a few guest speakers visit us virtually, some from the board. We're also planning to keep the tradition we have just started to host 1 speaker at each meeting. These speakers really boost our spirits and help us to get thinking about things that we could find maybe need improving upon within our schools, as well as getting us thinking about topics we may have never thought to bring up. I would like to thank you for your time. That is my report.
Thank you very much. Do trustees have any questions or comments? I think it sounds like you've done a lot. Oh, Director Wilder.
I just wanted to thank Trinity for a really well done report. Very articulate, and you presented it really, really well. So thank you so much. Great job.
I see a hand up that I'm not seeing a name to. Somebody might have to help me. Speak up if you have a question. Oh, Trustee Lutz. I'm sorry, I couldn't see. It was in my +15. Go ahead, Trustee Lutz.
Yeah, thank you, Student Senator, for your report. That was wonderful. And I was just wondering if you'd be willing to share some of the topics your guest speakers have covered during your meetings. Thank you.
Yes, so I believe our first meeting was centered around mental health. We've also talked about business within our board. And what was the other one? I think student leadership. And we have a few other things planned, such as like stuff centered around LGBTQIA plus students and racial education. And we're also trying to get in touch with people regarding gender-based violence and what we can do to help, as I mentioned. We've got a lot planned. So.
Just to jump in and support you, our guest speakers so far, we had our new mental health lead, Summer Kuhneman, come and speak with us. We had communications officer Jamie Pettit come and talk about particularly social media, because that's a big way that our Senate communicates with students, and that was very helpful. And then we had Superintendent Lefebvre come and talk about equity and Indigenous education. And tonight we had Superintendent Cummings come and talk about business. We have lots of plans for future meetings, so.
I hope you have us as trustees booked in there.
You're on the list.
Excellent. I also wanted to comment that I thought your presentation was excellent. I'm trying to think back. It feels like it's very ambitious and full and forward thinking. And I'm not to diminish any other student senate that's come before, but I just feel like each one builds on the last one and we move forward, and your voice is very important to us. So thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from anybody? I don't see any. Thank you very much, Trinity. Our staff reports. So I'd like to invite Superintendent of Education Lefebvre to speak to this report. But first I'll put this motion on the floor that the Blue Water District School Board receive the Indigenous Education Additional Qualifications Report for information. Could I have a mover and a seconder? I see Trustee Dawson and Trustee Johnstone. And welcome, Superintendent Lefebvre.
Thank you, Chair. It's my privilege and honor to be able to introduce you to Hugh Morrison. I think he does not need any introductions because he's been here before. Just a couple of months ago, he was with us. He's going to be speaking to us all about our Indigenous AQ, or additional qualification course that we've been running through Queen's University. He's an instructor there with Queen's, and he's obviously one of our very own Blue Water educators. He's the principal at GC Houston, and he brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to the role as instructor for this course. And I know that we've had some phenomenal comments coming back from all of the participants, and he's had a slate of excellent presenters come to some of his sessions. I've been able to join and listen in on some of those conversations. I haven't been one of those excellent presenters, not in this case. I've just been able to listen to some of the wonderful presenters. And without further ado, let me turn it over to Principal Morrison. Hugh?
All right. First of all, it's just nice to see some faces again. So hello, everyone. I think this is really fitting tonight. This is Secret Path Week. You know, the 17th to the 22nd of October, those are the dates that mark the passing of Cheney Wenjack and Gord Downey. So Secret Path Week is sort of a week that the Downey Wenjack Foundation have devoted to reconciliation education. And this topic certainly fits with that theme. So thank you so much for having me during Secret Path Week. So the additional qualification course was an idea that we came up with several years ago because it fit into our board action plan. Stephanie Shearhart, our previous Indigenous advisor, really championed this idea as it gives us an opportunity to sort of build champions in every school. So we'll move along there, Keith. So far we've been able to offer 3 separate sessions. The additional qualifications course was offered in the spring, in the summer, and then it's currently being offered again this fall. Through the spring and the summer, we had 36 participants complete the course, and currently we have 13. The course is a blended model, so the course shell is online, and then what we try and do to kind of give it voice and to give it sort of that authenticity is to have speakers every week that do a synchronous session. And we just found that really learning through people's stories is so powerful. As many of you know, I am not Indigenous. So really the course is taught from the perspective of how do we become allies. And with the guests that have joined us, it also helps to provide an authentic voice. So what we found is for many of our teachers and educators, there's this real desire to do something to help, but it's about getting over those initial barriers and being nervous to dive into content. Some of the content that we've looked at includes an introduction to land acknowledgements, to treaties, and some of the legal implications that our First Nations, Métis, Inuit populations deal with on a daily basis across Canada. From the teaching perspective, we really dive quite deeply into how we can honor Indigenous knowledge in the classroom. And for many of our teachers and our educators, that's sort of a big aha moment. When you start to acknowledge that there's other ways of seeing the world, other ways of knowing, it also opens you up to there's other ways to do school. There's other ways to make our classes look. We heard a terrific example of that earlier tonight when Superintendent Elliott and Superintendent Lipset, really showed us about learning from the land. The course also has a significant portion on, how do we consider truth and reconciliation? How do we learn and how do we teach about residential schools, about the 60s scoop, the Indian Act? How do we tell incredible stories of resilience and courage, with survivors? How do we, acknowledge the role that First Nations soldiers played in building this country? So, and along with that, the course really does encourage participants to really look at what are the barriers to their own learning, to them taking action, to changing their classrooms, and what are their own biases, and what are the biases that are inherent in our system. Just a quick word on the picture in the previous screen, that was Cedar. On Truth and Reconciliation Day on the 30th, all of the students at GC Houston received teachings on the 4 medicines. So this is actually what they, one of the first medicines they learned about, which is cedar. And it sort of really does make you feel that connection to the land. When we talk about authentic voices, I really feel like I need to mention the people that helped me with the course. Anytime that you're a course instructor, you have your perspective, but the more that you're able to expose people to different perspectives, to passionate voices, to stories, I think the better things go, and the more that people feel that motivation and encouragement to move forward. So some of our guests, Eric Grimstad and Alana Grimstad. Eric is a Blue Water District School Board product. He is currently the principal of James Bay Secondary School with the Cree School Board. His wife Alana has finished her master's in Indigenous pedagogy and is currently working with the college system in Quebec to integrate more learning from the land. Marcia Rainey, who at times has worked for Blue Water District School Board, has shared a very powerful voice with us, her story of being a 60 scoop survivor and how it's affected her entire life. And I just can't say enough about how privileged we've been to be able to listen to someone share something so emotional. Lisa Prynn, a manager of the Downey Wenjack Foundation, always happy to join us, and she feels a real connection to the area. And just on a personal note, it was a real highlight for me to see her in Toronto at the Downey Wenjack booth wearing a GC Houston shirt with our 7 grandfather teachings on it. So Lisa represents Blue Water all over Canada. Ian McCallum is our education officer from the ministry, and he's the individual that we do a lot of work with in order to really make our board action plan come alive. But additionally, he's a native language speaker from Muncie, and so he can speak to efforts to revitalize language and culture. Emily Cook, vice principal of Blue Water District School Board, spent years teaching in the Arctic and has some real perspective on that. Last week we had Audra Root, a child protection worker, and Audra will soon be working with Blue Water District School Board. And then Negon Sinclair, Dr. Negon Sinclair, who is a well-known columnist, author, professor, son of Murray Sinclair, who authored the Truth and Reconciliation Report. Negon has been able to share and join us for every session, which has been very special. And finally, Benson Colson, who's a recreational therapist, has joined our group to give different perspectives on how we can support mental health and how important it is to make sure our kids are outside. So those are some of the guests and some of the voices that we've had influence our teachers and administrators in the course. Just a quick word on this picture. This was, again, on Reconciliation Day. This is a sacred fire. We were really honored that on the front lawn of the school, we were able to showcase that fire, and every student was able to receive teachings about why that fire was important. And we were especially honored when an elder from Cape was driving by the school and felt so compelled that she pulled over and had to come and share the day with us, and was very taken aback by what the students and the staff were learning. So that fire was the center of that day. Some of the emerging themes that we've seen in the course and the things that teachers end up wrestling with, the idea of appropriation versus appreciation. How can we really facilitate cultural learning? How can we look at history differently? How can we do that in a way where we don't take someone's identity, where we show appreciation and we do it respectfully? That's a really fundamental question that teachers in the course have had to wrestle with. The second theme is the importance of, and you can sort of see I've spelled it differently tonight, it's reconciliation. And this is something that we borrowed from the Downey Wenjack Foundation. It's not enough. Reconciliation requires us to do something. And really the calls to action encourage teachers to really find ways to adjust their practice, to look at history differently, to give kids a different experience than they would have gotten years ago. The next one is one that's really important at the school I'm at currently, but I think it's important for us as a board as well. And that's the idea that not for us, without us. So as much as we can dialogue with our community partners, as much as we can work with and listen to, we really have a better chance of doing well. And I know that on the 30th, some of our actions were planned in concert with the local community. When teachers aren't sure of what they should do or shouldn't do in a classroom, or whether they should teach a sensitive topic or not, how can we put them in touch with people that can help guide them through that, so that they can feel like they have some cultural allies? And I think the one kind of key thing that resonates over and over is that the course really gives educators a safe space to do some deep reflection on their practice, on their own bias, on the environments we teach in, and on our system, and how we can do those things differently and better. And most importantly, how all of our kids can learn about, the situations that we've seen. I mean, the Kamloops discovery brought this to the forefront, but these are educational issues that have happened for hundreds of years. And we need to work at making it different, and we need to work at helping students. So some of the actions, and again, you know, this is the exciting part of what's happened out of the course, is that we almost immediately have seen some change and some things happen in schools. And this is a small sample. Lisa Prynn, during her guest speaking with our group, made mention that she found the plaque at Spirit Rock. She was hiking in the area, and the plaque at Spirit Rock that many of our classes would, you know, hike past when they're at the Outdoor Ed Center, that plaque is historically incorrect. And in some ways it was actually insulting. So one of the members of our class took that on and is working with a Rotary Club north of here, and they're changing the plaque and making it more historically accurate. Another one, during the 30th, we were able at GC Houston to reaffirm our commitment on the bridge. So that was something that Dan Russell had done previously, but the community really feel it's important and invited us to participate in, you know, reaffirming our bond as a community together. And so that was very powerful. And I know that that was featured in part in the CBC National as a way that the community is coming together. Another one, earning our land acknowledgement. You know, we heard the land acknowledgement at the start of the meeting tonight, and we say it at the start of every meeting. It's not enough just to say it. Part of what we have to do for reconciliation is to earn that land acknowledgement. What does it mean? Whose land are we really on? Have we done some work to understand the people that have shared this incredible gift with us? And I know that there's a teacher at a school that took the course who has built her year, her social studies units, her language units around learning through the land acknowledgement. You know, saying it scratches the surface. And then I think the part that I'm most excited about, and I think the reason why I will continue to facilitate the course as long as I can, is that we're leveraging some of this learning into a network. Our goal really is to have an educator in every school that can champion some of this work. And, you know, years ago, this was something that, you know, we knew that there was issues, but it was hard to get momentum. And I know with the leadership of our director, she's always been supportive about momentum in this direction. And now we are going to have somebody in every school. Currently, I think we're going to have over 40 educators that are passionate about taking action. They've already expressed a deep desire to have meetings even outside of the school day if it means that they can connect and talk through ideas. So, you know, that passion is important, and it again speaks to the types of educators we have in Blue Water. This is an action at my school this morning. And I just wanted to give you a sense of this. So what you can actually see here is kids coming off the school bus and they're smudging. So at our school, before every day, we have the smudge outside. And as kids get off the bus or parents are dropping kids off, they're free to smudge. If somebody doesn't know what smudge is, we teach them. And what we've heard from so many of our First Nations students is that it helps them to feel like they can meet the day in a positive way. Many of our staff come outside to smudge, and now we actually have parents who, when they drop their kids off, come and join us. For lots of people who hadn't been exposed to the practice before, it's generated lots of questions and some learning. And really, that's what this is all about. And this is open to anyone who wants to do it. And it's become a tradition for us, and it's just a really positive way to start your day. And I think what it speaks of to me is just the idea that the more that we can accumulate small wins for people, the more that we can be accepting and inclusive, the better off we all are. Finally, this you know, this kind of makes the course worthwhile, and this gives you a little taste of how the candidates feel about it. The discussions throughout the course helped me see the Eurocentric lens with more clarity and allowed me the time, space, and support to examine how to do things differently. Through discussions and honesty, I was able to understand how to move beyond the superficial to true change of belief. And I think that any time that we can offer PD that helps people to be in touch with their core values and look at their beliefs, then I think that's a positive thing. So I want to say thank you to Superintendent Lefebvre, who's been very supportive of this process, and just to all of you. And you know, there's so many good Blue Water educators who are taking up this challenge.
Thank you so much. Do trustees have any questions or comments? Trustee Lutz, go ahead.
Thank you, Principal Morrison. I just want. Sorry, I'm echoing with people's mics on. Thank you. I want to thank you for such a great presentation, and it sounds like a phenomenal course, and I look forward to hopefully auditing it at some point. I've hinted that a few times, but I also just want to say what an immense privilege it has been to be able to be at GC Houston for many of your events, and to see your students and how they are thriving under the culture being created, and the change is apparent and in the air, and it is so wonderful every time I get the immense privilege of being there and seeing it. And I'm just grateful that you have this opportunity to share all the connections and voices you are bringing together, and also some of the things you have done as a settler in a position of power to make space for the Indigenous students and staff in your school. So I both want to thank you for the incredible job you're doing in your school, and also what you're doing by facilitating this course. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Dawson.
Thank you, Chair Thompson, and Hugh, thank you for that presentation. It's really exciting to see this course being offered. I have a question. How many of the participants are from Blue Water, and how many are from outside the board, if you have those numbers?
So what we've done, I was the course instructor for Queen's prior to it being offered within the board. And, you know, with Director Wilder and Superintendent Lefebvre's guidance, we were able to work with Queen's to partner. So all of the course participants are from Blue Water District School Board now.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, good to hear that.
And Chair, if you don't mind me just adding, we've also we're in the process of putting out invitations to many of those champions who have taken the course with you to do some additional professional development with Nigan and Audra directly throughout the year, as well as we're definitely scaffolding the professional development as well, and we're including some for people who have not taken the additional qualification course. So certainly we have we're trying to offer the learning for everyone within the board that is interested, and we seem to have a lot of people very interested. So we want to definitely capture those people, and Hugh is definitely leading the way. So I really appreciate all the work that he's doing.
Trustee McComb, and then I'll go to Director Wilder, if that's okay. You're on mute, Marilyn.
This was about smudging. I'm just sort of interested in that. I have smelt the results of the smudging, but I know very little about it. So when they come to the bus, what is involved?
Hugh, you're on mute now.
Smudging happens with a smudge bowl, and in our case, we use buffalo sage. Buffalo sage lights well, and it smokes even in inclement weather, so it's very suitable for that. What you usually do is once you come up to the smudge bowl, you would take the smoke. You know, how you do it is kind of unique to you, but most people will pull it into their heart. their eyes so they'll see good things, their ears so they will hear well, and their mouth so that they will speak positive things. And then they cover themselves with that smoke, and it's sort of a cleanse, and it gives you positive thoughts and positive energy to go about your day. And this was gifted to us from the health center on Saugeen. I had staff members who were trained to do it, and they offer it. So literally now, as people arrive at the school, it's ongoing, and you can participate if you'd like to or not. I mean, today we had a member of the Saugeen Shores Police Department came, asked what was going on. We taught him about smudge, and then he joined us for smudge today. That was a powerful image for a lot of our kids. So it's just a really nice way to start the day with positive thoughts and positive feelings. And Trustee McComb, you would always, just like any member of the public who walks by the school, you would always be invited to join us for that teaching into smudge.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Wilder.
Thank you. Hugh, we are so fortunate to have you as principal at GC Houston, and also to be teaching the course and spreading all of the knowledge that you have with our teacher candidates in our system. Some may know, but Hugh actually was a student at GC Houston. He has been a member of the community for quite some time, and I think that has been really helpful in your role there as principal. You have already established many, many friendships and trust and respect in the community. And I can just feel the compassion oozing out of you when you speak. You're just so authentic, and we're very fortunate to have you in the position that you're in, Hugh. So thanks so much, very, very much for the work that you do with our students and our staff. I was also going to ask Keith if perhaps he could talk just a little bit. We do have a new Indigenous advisor. If Keith could just talk a little bit about Audra, and just for the trustees, Stephanie Shearhart received another job opportunity. So she was sorry to leave Blue Water, but she received a very good opportunity for another position that involves a lot of travel to Indigenous communities throughout, not just even Ontario, it's Canada. She's mentioned even options down in Australia. So if Keith, you just want to talk about Audra's background a little bit so the trustees know, but I'll pass it over to Keith, if that's okay. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be able to share with you that, well, it was very unfortunate that we lost Stephanie to a great opportunity for her, but this provided us an opportunity to reach out into the community and post for the position. And Audra Root was the successful candidate. She's going to be starting with us on November 1st as our Indigenous advisor. Audra comes to us from the Chippewas of Saugeen, and she has a wealth of knowledge and experience working in that community, supporting families and children in that community. She's had roles such as she was a police officer, and she's worked in like a child and family support roles. She knows the community very well. I know when I spoke to Hugh about Audra, he had nothing but wonderful things to say about her, and I think she's going to be a terrific fit for us in Blue Water. So we welcome Audra on November 1st.
Trustee Dawson, I still see your hand up, but I suspect it's because it didn't go down.
Sorry.
No worries. As I listened to you, Hugh, I was part of the our meeting the other morning, and then today. Authentic is the word that I wanted to say, and I'm envious because I live a little bit further away, that I don't get to intersect with you and your school and your students more often. I do feel like you're a real gift to our board, for all of us to learn. There's just something about the way that your generosity and your kindness and your wisdom that you share, and I'm very impressed with that. I'm glad you're here with us tonight, and I'm glad you're at the school and with the board. So thank you so much. I feel like I always learn so much when I listen to you.
Thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Were there any other comments or questions? I see none. Thank you so much. It was moved by Trustee Dawson, seconded by Trustee Johnstone, that the Blue Water District School Board receive the Indigenous Education Additional Qualifications Report for information. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. I just got a message from Trustee Morgan. Her power is out, so she has had to leave our meeting. So that brings us to our school update report. And I'd like to invite Superintendent of Education Elliott to speak to this report. So I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder that the Blue Water District School Board receive the school update report for information. Could I have a mover, please? Trustee Atkinson and seconded by Trustee Johnstone. And welcome, Superintendent Elliott.
Thank you. I'm pleased to bring you the school update report tonight, or to begin. I'll be followed by Superintendent Tang and then Superintendent Lefebvre. First of all, Public Health is wrapping up their school COVID-19 vaccine clinics for students aged 12 to 17 and for staff. Second dose clinics will be offered in some schools, and those schools have been selected based on the number of vaccines given in the first round of vaccines, and in schools where transportation for students might be a difficulty. So some schools that are having clinics will be Osprey and Dundalk and some Owen Sound schools. And then in other cases, Public Health will be reaching out directly to students who received a first dose to arrange for those students to have their second dose. A positive sign that we are looking forward in Blue Water is that Public Health is resuming some of their traditional roles in our schools. For example, dental screening of students in kindergarten and grades 2, 4, and 7 will occur in our schools from October to December. Public Health has plans to resume their traditional vaccine program later this year as well. And I wanted to bring an update regarding masking. We have received some questions, and I just wanted to provide some background. So the ministry guidance that we received in August states that boards are asked to carefully review their masking exemption policies to ensure that students are supported to wear masks to the greatest extent possible. Public Health supports this stance and has communicated with local physicians that mask exemptions should be very rare. We also sought a legal opinion on our ability to request medical information, and the legal advice that we received was that we do have an obligation to ensure that all requests for exemption are founded. Though the support of through the support of a medical practitioner, we can determine what reasonable accommodation is appropriate. So for example, can a student not wear a mask at all, or could the student wear a mask some of the time with breaks, or could the student wear a face shield instead? Those are some of the questions that we might ask through the medical practitioner. The request for medical is not for the purpose of substantiating the exemption, but rather to either validate the medical condition and or to determine what accommodation is reasonable. The Ontario Human Rights Commission is not aware of any tribunal or court decision that found a singular belief against masks amounted to a creed within the meaning of the code. While the code prohibits discrimination based on creed, personal preferences or singular beliefs do not amount to creed for the purposes of the code. Those are my portions of the report, but I'm here for questions if you have any or comments.
Any questions or comments before we move along? Trustee Lutz.
Thanks, Superintendent Elliott. I just wanted to thank you for all that due diligence and work, because I know the legal component and human rights code component of masking and exemptions has become quite contentious. So I thank you for doing all that work and sharing it with us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Dawson and then Trustee Johnstone.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. A couple of boards have had issues with some staff wearing N95 masks, and they've been sanctioned for that. I'm just wondering if that's been our experience, or do we have a policy about the N75 masks?
I could allow Superintendent Tang to speak, but to my knowledge, we have not had an issue. We work with our Human Resources Department if staff feel that they need some sort of accommodation, and we've been very successful in accommodating staff, just like we do with students as necessary, but we haven't had the same issue other boards have had with N95 masks.
Trustee Johnstone.
Yes, I'd like to thank Superintendent Elliott for providing us with that great information, and I would like you to send it. You can send it to everybody, but I would like it because I get lots of questions all the time, and I think that just being able to say the very same thing, you know, across all of us, it would be really helpful to just reinforce the same. That, you know, I might say same message, but I think it's more about understanding. It's not about a message, it's about understanding where, you know, in terms of legally in the law and stuff like that, because I do have people who do tell me that, you know, things that you just said are disputable, so, or they're not the same. So it's about fact checks.
Through the chair, to be fair to our parents, and the stance on masking has changed since the beginning of the pandemic. In the beginning of the pandemic, we were placing some concern on contracting COVID from a surface, and then also concern about airborne, the possibility that COVID was airborne, but without really knowing. And over the past year, we've really learned that it's much more probable to contract COVID-19 through airborne, in an airborne way. And so the stance about masking has become more solid over the past year. So depending on where parents are reading and the sources of their information, it may contradict what the current thinking is. And what my report tonight is based on the most current thinking of public health and our most current guidance from our legal team. So that's, to be fair to parents, I think that there has been some misunderstanding in the past.
Okay. Supplementary then?
Go ahead.
As our thinking, you know, as that changes and could change and evolve, it would be great when you receive, to say, new information or, you know, subsequent information, is to share that with us right away.
I would be happy to.
Awesome, thank you.
I just wanted to, and maybe Superintendent Elliott will clarify, we have received replies to some of the letters of concern that have come in the past, and some of that information sounds familiar to me. If there is additional information, I'm sure you would share that with us, but I think we have received some of that same information before. I see Director Wilder nodding her head, so you might want to refer back to some of the response that Director Wilder sent prior, and it will give you some of that same information. Go ahead, Director Wilder.
Thanks, Chair Thompson. I was going to say the same. So if you look back at the emails that I had forwarded to you, it pretty much everything that Superintendent Elliott said is included in that, including the Ontario Human Rights quote that that Cheryl had read this evening. So most of it is there.
And in just to comment to Trustee Johnstone's comment in the previous meeting, your hand is up in my see presenters or who's in the meeting and not in your picture. So there is something going on with who's got their hand up and down. Are there any other questions or comments? I see none, and I assume we're getting Superintendent Tang next.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to bring a very brief update about the staff vaccination. First of all, I would like you to know that today we issued a numbered memo that includes the board's protocol for the vaccination disclosure for Blue Water District school boards. And this is something we've developed using provincial resources and seeking some legal assistance. So that has gone to administrators today and will go to all staff tomorrow. That's an important step in our process of working with people. I'm very pleased to let you know we're of our permanent employees, 94% have attested to being fully vaccinated now. And we're down to 52 people who still have to upload their certificates, and we are in HR assisting with that process for people. So we have just over 100 people who are doing the rapid testing, and we have kits shipped to everyone for that. In terms of our occasional employees, it's about 92% that have attested to being fully vaccinated. We do have a larger number there that haven't yet submitted their attestation, but we're working through that with the union president's assistance. We have a reasonable uptake on the people watching the educational programs, so about 83% have watched the educational program on the benefits of COVID-19 vaccination. That is required for people that are not fully vaccinated. And we are tracking our visitors and emergency workers to ensure that they are fully vaccinated and have submitted their vaccination certificate, or have received, in the case of our emergency workers, rapid testing kits that they are required to test before they come into the school. So we are making good progress on this particular task.
Any questions or comments? I see none.
Thank you.
Next is Superintendent Lefebvre.
Hi, I'm here to present about sports and extracurriculars, and I just want to share with you some great news about things that have been happening around the district. So I know I talked to Mr. Kulikowski from Beaver Valley. They had over 200 participants. Really excited and thrilled to be back playing sports again. The coaches and the parents that were there were just thrilled that we had a soccer tournament with 5 schools participating from Blue Water at the Thornbury Soccer Complex there, Tomahawk, and it was a wonderful turnout and a wonderful event for all of those athletes. We also have upcoming Kawasa Cross Country, so this is 28 schools from 2 different athletic associations, and the teachers have been phenomenal. And Cheryl Elliott, Superintendent Elliott, and I have been dealing with all of the protocols and the plans that people have been putting in. And this particular teacher that is hosting the Kawasa Cross Country, she had an excellent plan with evacuation and isolation plans for everyone. The runners are going to be wearing chips so that they're going to be doing wave starts with the runners, so that they're not going to be clustered together. There's going to be separate tents available for each individual, for the individual associations and schools, so that they can all remain separated. It's all about safety, but it's about making sure that the students get out there and they're able to compete and have fun. So it's wonderful that these things are happening. I know you've probably seen and heard on the local radio station all of the football games that are happening and other events that are happening. And the last one I just wanted to highlight was the junior girls basketball tournament that's coming up at Walkerton. And again, the teachers have gone above and beyond in terms of putting together plans that meet the guidelines from public health and make sure that our students and staff are safe and that they're able to compete. So we're really pleased to see all of our hard work is coming to fruition, and we're seeing students able to compete and really enjoy what we wanted to see them do is to enjoy sports again. So that's it for my report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I see none. And are you our final presenter tonight?
I am not absolutely sure. I believe I might be. I think I was at the last of the list. Yes.
Thank you. So it was moved by Trustee Atkinson and seconded by Trustee Johnstone that the Blue Water District School Board receive the school update report for information. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We've had no correspondence that's been received. So communications, announcements from student trustees, staff, Ministry of Education, OPSPA. Trustee Johnstone, do I see your hand?
Let me see mine.
No, you don't, but here it is.
Oh, okay. I saw it on the one side, but not in the other part.
Yeah,
and then
there you go.
We're going to go to you.
Yeah. So this has to do with OPSPA. So first of all, it's just a reminder that this is Local Government Week, and that, of course, it's time for all of us to celebrate and promote the important role that local government plays in our communities, and most significantly, the work that you and we all do as publicly elected school board trustees. I know that the president of OSPA, Kathy Abraham, sent out a lovely letter to everybody and talked about a few of the things that OSPA is going to be doing. But if you're particularly on social media and saying anything around education, it would be great to, to just remind people that it is Local Government Week. The other thing in her letter to us was a reminder that there is a government consultation that directly affects trustees, and the Ministry of Education is proposing to implement minimum standards for the trustee codes of conduct, and there are very much two ways that you can respond. There's a regulatory proposal which can be found, and it's in that letter, and it's linked, so you can go right there, and it's the Ontario Regulatory Registry, and the other one is an online survey, and both of those are open to trustees and the public until November 1st. The survey is of particular importance, and it's an opportunity to comment on the role and the responsibilities of trustees, and it's an important of local community voices in setting education policy and the many ways that trustees make a difference provincially and of course very much locally. It was a reminder just to let you all know that the Ontario Public School Board created a policy on basically the code of conduct in 2012 and recently updated that code of conduct template for member boards in 2019. And it would be really good if you actually read it, because it's important to know that many of the new proposed components of the code of conduct policy that are being presented through that survey are already considered in our template document. And if you actually went back and read the OSPA's code of conduct template, it might help to help your thoughts when you're responding to that survey. So I'm encouraging every one of you, including student trustees and senators, to take an opportunity to have your perspective included in the consultation by completing that survey prior to November 1st, 2021. If you don't have a link to it, if you ask me, I will send it to you. And if there's any questions, I'm quite willing to take those too concerning it.
Thank you very much. It's helpful to hear it presented rather than just to read about it. Trustee Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it was a good read from Kathy Abrams. Thanks very much, Jan. I'd like to bring up another subject, and this was information update for trustees. I just wondered what the rationale was behind the participation in the national and international assessments for our students. I understand they've been through stress and pandemic and all the rest of the nonsense that's gone on for the last 18 months, but just a quick overview would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Director Wilder.
So I can respond to that, Trustee Morgan, and I see Superintendent Penner-Lipset is there as well. So EQAO is a mandated assessment. We are required, boards are required to participate in that. These extra assessments that were highlighted in the trustee update are not considered mandatory. And in fact, not specific to our board, but a legal review was done in that, and it was shared with us through our association that it's not required that we participate. We are looking for some provincial burden reduction strategies, as they're called. Last year, the ministry did provide some. For example, teacher performance appraisals and other kinds of appraisals, principal performance appraisals, for example, did not go forward because of all of the extra requirements that came about because of COVID protocols, health and safety aspects, cohorting, different schedules, like it just went on and on. We're still not out of the woods yet, and there are still a lot of stressors in schools. So collectively in the province, boards are saying, well, if this isn't a mandatory requirement, let's back away from it and not impose this on our schools. For the first assessment, we only had, and generally in Blue Water, we would only have 1, 2, maybe 3 schools selected. We only had 2 of our schools selected, 2 elementary schools. And in both cases, we know from talking with principals, there's a lot of stress in those buildings for all of the reasons I identified. So when we thought of our own local burden reduction strategy, that was one that we came to say, no, we are not going to ask our students or our schools to participate in this. And I really stand by that decision. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, totally. Thank you so much. I much appreciate the clarification. Thanks, Lord.
You're welcome.
Trustee Atkinson.
I just have some fantastic news that affects our schools in Blue Water. As you know, a few weeks ago, the Tim Hortons had their Smile Cookie campaign. And, to the drum roll, $73,000 was raised for our schools in Blue Water. $73,000 in 7 days. That's 73,000 cookies. And that is up $10,063 from the last school year. So it's phenomenal. And as being directly involved with the nutrition program, this money is well needed for our schools to help with the COVID protocols and the new guidelines that we have to fulfill to make sure our kiddos are starting their day on a full tank. So I just, that's just 9 Tim Hortonses. That's phenomenal. I got the news on Friday and I thought, what happy Friday news that was, because that's just remarkable. I can't believe that many cookies were digested in Grey Bruce County, but that's just what I wanted to share with you. I get excited over the small little things too. So it's just so needed in our smaller schools and in our bigger schools. It's just needed throughout the district. And so I'm very pleased to bring you that exciting news. And I'm sure school administrators will be happy when that check comes into their school bank accounts, because it's an unexpected pleasure to have that come to us. So that's what I just wanted to share with you all. And I will stop talking.
Happy news.
That's lovely news. Thank you. Any other comments, updates, announcements? I don't see any. The trustee calendar of events is there for your information. And with that, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder that the Blue Water District School Board adjourn at 8:34 p.m. I see Trustee Johnstone and Trustee Dawson. All in favor? And that is carried. Good night, everyone. Stay safe and well.
Good night, everyone.
Safe home, everybody.
Good night. Yes,
Good night.
right, Fran.
Good night.
It's
Thank
a long
you.
drive.
Good night.